Okay, so I figured I would just make a recording explaining why I've decided to bomb an IVF building or clinic. um, Basically, it just comes down to I'm angry that I exist, and that nobody got my consent to bring me here. And I know what you're going to say. How could we have got your consent because you didn't exist? Blah blah blah. Exactly the point. There's no way you can get consent to bring someone here, so don't do it, right?
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk about Guy Bartkus, the IVF bomber, and some of the weird oddities surrounding this story before this information gets buried in memory hold. So let's start here from Jim Garrison Keller on X. Palm Springs antinatalist bomber Oddities, residents of his neighborhood in 29 Palms told reporters there was an FBI presence in the neighborhood in the days leading up to the bombing. Residents of his neighborhood told reporters there was an FBI presence in the days leading up to the bombing. Very last question in this press conference.
Breaking News Channel 3. We had a reporter on scene at the 29 Palms area yesterday, and community members were telling her that there was an FBI presence there in the days leading up to that. Can you confirm that?
I cannot.
Okay, folks, that concludes this press conference. We're done, folks.
Shut it down. We're done. Shut it down. Shut it down. Yeah, so you heard that reporter say that residents told them there was an FBI presence in the neighborhood in the days leading up to this event. The bomb threw pieces of the car hundreds of feet in the air, and they landed several blocks away. The FBI says it's the largest bombing in SoCal history. Barkcus did his homework. This is said to be his post on a self-yeeting forum the day before the event. So he goes on here. To write this post. It's long and meandering, so I'll just read the main parts that matter. Tomorrow morning, I will finally be gone. We'll be mixing sulfuric and formic acid in a bucket in my car, and it should produce 10,000 plus ppm within a minute or two. He says that he will be wearing a half-piece respirator with 3M acid gas cartridges to mitigate breathing in formic acid fumes. Sulfuric not an issue. Vapor pressure is low. If there's enough of it vaporizing, it may affect my eyes and maybe even skin, but I'll just close my eyes. If it affects my skin, oh well, I'll be passed out very quick anyways, and I will be on opiates. And so look at the people that reacted and responded to this positively. I find that crazy. I wonder who Rose Girl is. This is apparently a member of this forum. Just for the record, the FBI says Barkcus was totally not on their radar and totally not previously known to them. So here we have from the FBI LA. The FBI has identified Guy Edward Bartkus, 25 years old, of 29 Palms, as the primary suspect in the Palm Springs vehicle explosion. They say, we are fairly confident Mr. Bartkus is our primary subject, our primary suspect, a person of interest. Akil Davis, assistant director in charge of the FBI in LA, added that the suspect was not previously known to the FBI. And I'm going to call X to doubt on that one. Barkcus may have been radicalized by a friend in Washington, D.C. who opposed IVF. Richard Barkcus, the father, told NBC affiliate KMIR that he always had known his son, Guy, to have a good heart and believes he was brainwashed. I know what you're all thinking. Dave McAllen, programmed to kill, and I agree. The last time he saw or talked to his son was over a decade ago, he said, after Guy moved to 29 Palms to live with his mother. More details on Barkcus, a Yucca Valley High School graduate. That's the father there. Guy had a good heart. He always looked out for people, especially children. "I don't know what snapped," Richard Barkcus told the Desert Sun while sitting on his couch in his living room in Yucca Valley. He described his son as a young man who worked monitoring special needs children on school buses. Guy was also apparently a computer whiz who built his own computers as early as the age of 9. He was an avid gamer, playing Halo and other titles, his father said. He did not know of any serious physical or mental health conditions his son may have had. Anyways, this is Tori King, who asked the question in the original post. No mention of the Fed presence in 29 Palms, though. So far, no further mention of the FBI presence in 29 Palms leading up to the bombing in any other KESQ report. Barkcus's father: "He wasn't a leader, he was a follower. If someone came along and said this was a good idea, he'd probably go along with it." Palm Springs police chief: "Others knew about Barkcus's plans. He'd been posting his plans online for 6 years. 6 years. Oh, but we're to believe that he was not previously known to the feds, wasn't on their radar? Give me a break." His house in 29 Palms was a fully developed bomb lab, and he had PETN. Not sure how you even obtain this stuff. Military and industrial use, PETN is used in detonators, explosive primers, and plastic explosives. Only authorized defense contractors, mining companies, or government agencies can legally obtain it. Some universities or chemical research institutions might have access under strict regulatory oversight. Companies that supply high-grade chemicals to authorized industries may distribute PETN under stringent controls. So isn't that fascinating? If he did live with his mom, I'm guessing she was aware he'd converted the house into a lab. He knew how to build the bomb, but the timing and placement of it caused no damage to the embryos. It may have gone off before he intended. Interesting mix of bomb-making skills and carelessness about the end result. I'm curious about how they connected Barkcus to 29 Palms residents and when and how they decided it was a potential blast zone. They used an incendiary device to enter the house at 8 p.m. after they evacuated the neighborhood. I'm curious about the condition his body was in and how they did a DNA test and established his information so quickly. The suspect was reportedly dealing with depression and had personal relationship issues, law enforcement officials close to the investigation said. Authorities said he was 25 years old from 29 Palms, where they are executing a search warrant. I should add that the Marines have a training area out in 29 Palms. Framing this as the left has gone too far is actually pretty funny. Barkcus went to the IVF facility on a Saturday when it was closed to the public. He thought this whole thing through to a high degree of detail, but he didn't damage a single embryo and killed only one person, himself. Now, several others were injured, but the only person that died in this was himself. Will be very interesting to hear exactly what kind of bomb this was and how it was constructed based on the FBI post-bomb analysis. If someone didn't help him build it, someone had to have been aware that he was doing it. Barkcus' estranged father, who hasn't seen him in over 10 years, has been interviewed on TV, while the mother and sister, who likely know much more about what happened to him, are AWOL. That's an interesting detail. You have to wonder why Barkcus chose the American Reproductive Center in Palm Springs. The bomb exploded in the exact location of Dr. Mayer Abdallah's office. He was out of town. He was rated one of the best infertility doctors in America in the U.S. News and World Report. Abdullah was supposed to be in that very location that day, but he had taken a meeting at the last minute. Was he the intended victim? Dr. Abdallah was supposed to be in that office. The American Reproductive Center is speaking out for the first time since the Palm Springs bombing. In terms of what Barkcus was doing online and who he was in contact with, the self-yeeting forum he posted on had no content moderation, no registration or identification or age requirement. The other incel forum, run by the same people, was connected to at least one mass yeeting. Lastly, it's worth mentioning the founders of the site also run the most successful incel forum on the web. The forum is anti-women, rife with racism, homophobia, conspiracy theories, and anti-Care Bearism. It is according to a report by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, also linked to at least one mass yeeting. Also, these are people advising our children to self-delete. The founder of these sites, Marcus and Serge, have removed all traces of their real identities from the internet, but were located at one point in Alabama and Uruguay, and have vowed to fight all efforts to shut down the site. Where the despairing log on and learn for ways to self-delete. Honestly, his philosophy here is a few shades away from Buddhism. Just instead of ending the cycle of samsara, it's about avoiding creating new life and ending one's early. Obviously, there's no concern with attachments and cravings, etc. So this is his audio, and we will get into that. Barkcus worked with special needs children on school buses, and I'm guessing this affected his worldview. The supremely weird thing is that his mom and sister lived with him. They had to have known about his bomb lab, and yet we have no names. The media isn't mentioning them. We don't even know if the authorities have located them or not. They're scrubbed. But the father he hasn't seen in a decade is all over the news. Indeed, indeed. So continuing on, he was influenced by Efilism. It's kind of crazy. Adam Lanza was discovered to have been driven by the weird antinatalist ideology of Efilism, and it was never seriously explored further. So this comes from the website created by Guy Bartkus. He says, you can download the recorded stream of my self-deleting at an IVF clinic. Please do redistribute and upload where you can. The site won't stay up for long. Well, that video did not properly record, but he even created an FAQ section on his website. It is extremely Reddit tier. He says, basically, I'm pro-mortalist. Efilism explains what this is quite well. Also, here is a backup I made of his channel in case it ever gets taken down. It's total nonsense. Anywho, he was an ethilist. This is the next story, like the Zizians. Yeah, I would say that. Posted something quickly, better explainer to come. In a YouTube video titled Don't Go Quietly, posted on an account that appears to belong to Barkcus called Involuntary Inception, he discusses the necessity of public self-deleting. Again, he seems to have drawn inspiration from Lanza in both form and content. He appears very concerned with free speech in his YouTube videos. This is Efilism. Subreddit has been banned. Well, that's good, I guess. And so I thought this was interesting too. He's very clearly influenced by Lanza. Lanza had a channel called Cultural Philistine with 32 videos. The FBI removed the channel, but we grabbed all of the videos, right or wrong. It's in the best interest to hear his crazy rants. Yes, I agree. And he has a video from December 21st, 2011 called Done with YouTube. That is his last video, and it's very similar in nature to the audio manifesto left by Guy Bartkus.
Life itself really is just, it's a big drug addiction, right? It's just chasing absolute nonsense, and I've pretty much seen this since I was a kid. I've pretty much known it since I was a kid. As a kid, I wasn't able to put words to it, but some part of my brain kind of understood it, right? Because I really wasn't very interested in anything. I really didn't want much, you know. And as I've gotten older and older, you know, more aware, I started to realize, like, oh, this is a really nasty game. This life on Earth game is really nasty. You know, it's causing tons and tons of harm. It is a zero-sum game. Is that what it's called? Zero-sum game? As in Mendham, Gary would say, there is no carrot, there's only the whip, okay? It doesn't intuitively make sense when you think about it. Like, when I first heard him say shit like that, I totally didn't believe it. I was like, no. Like, there's certain things that are just, like, pleasurable on their own. And, but as I thought about, you know, over the week after, like, the week after I heard him say that, I just started thinking about things, and I started to realize, like, no, it's, there really is no, like, fundamental, like, good, you know. It really is all made of fixing bad things.
I hadn't cared enough about life to pursue anything, but I hadn't cared enough about death to kill myself. So I had just been spending a lot of time moping, and I thought, why not participate on YouTube? That way I can fulfill my desire to express my hatred for culture and what it's done to me. I've always dismissed the Efilists as being moralizers. The first minute that I saw him and him, I knew that he was just a moralizer, and I've dismissed the antinatalists here as such in multiple places, multiple times. I remember I explicitly called them black balloon chasers once. Actually, I'll find that quote. Is a simple need for dominance, an illusion for the so-called ego game you have chosen to stay involved in. You're not above the maze looking at it like Gary thinks he is, but very well inside it, with enough data to believe that it's a maze, but still running around unable to get out.
IVF clinic tease unsettling connection to a woman unalived 1,200 miles away. The man suspected of bombing an IVF clinic in Palm Springs had a bizarre connection to a woman who was unalived weeks before the horrific incident. Guy Edward Bartkus, 25, is accused of setting off the blast just before 11 a.m. Saturday at the American Reproductive Center in Palm Springs in a silver Ford Fusion sedan. Barkcus is the only person who died in the incident, which authorities are calling an intentional act of T. 4 others were injured, but none of them are employees of the clinic. In his writings, Barkcus allegedly said he was pro-mortalist, something he described as someone who intends to bring on their own unaliving as soon as possible to prevent your future suffering, and more importantly, the suffering your existence will cause to all the other sentient beings. This is absolute demonic nonsense. On his website, where a file allegedly failed to upload a video he recorded of this event, Barkcus said his best friend Sophie shared similar views as him. He mentioned Sophie recently passed away after she allegedly convinced her boyfriend to unalive her in her sleep. His account appears to line up with the unaliving of Sophie Tinney, 27, who died on April 20th of multiple gunshot wounds to the head in a home in Fox Island, Washington. Tinney's boyfriend, Lars Eugene Nelson, 29, was later charged with second-degree murder in connection with her death. In the FAQ section of his website, Barkcus wrote, "If I recall correctly, we had agreed that if one of us passed away, the other would probably soon follow." Tinney's boyfriend, Lars Nelson, was later charged with second-degree murder of his partner's death. Prosecutors allege the fatal shooting may have been planned and that Tinney convinced her boyfriend to take her life. Nelson was released on $750,000 bond following his arraignment on April 22nd. He's due back in court Monday. Barkcus recorded a 30-minute long audio clip explaining why he decided to bomb an IVF building. "I figure I would just make a recording explaining why I've decided to bomb a clinic. Basically, it just comes down to I'm angry that I exist and that, nobody got my consent to bring me here," he said. He was angry IVF clinics exist, adding, "These are people who are having kids after they've sat there and thought about it. How much more stupid can it get?" He is suspected of setting off a large vehicle-borne IED outside the clinic, which performs IVF treatment, egg collection, and other procedures. Authorities found an AK-47 and AR-style rifle as well as ammunition next to the burnt vehicle. On Saturday, FBI officials raided the home and evacuated the neighborhood over fears it was a blast zone. So here we continue on. This is part of this man's manifesto. This is the founder of this particular offshoot of negative utilitarianism. This is something he mentions on his website, that this is the philosophies he likes. Negative utilitarianism, Efilism, abolitionist veganism, basically philosophies that have realized religion is retarded, but that there is an objective value in the universe, and it lies in the harm being experienced by sentient beings. So although it may seem dark, it's the polar opposite of nonsense like nihilism. That's exactly what it is, though. This is apparently the individual, though, who has come up with some of this stuff. This individual, Gary and Mosher, in his philosophy, Efilism, are also referenced in Lanza's recordings. He says that he differs from Efilis in several regards. Their main issue is they invoke these cultural abstractions like rights and morality to further their ideology. And I'm not appealing to anything. I recognize there's nothing transcendent about my ideas. They're just a consequence of the life I've lived. But it's kind of like how Jay Sender said, there are so many people from different backgrounds who come to the same conclusion about antinatalism, about the structure of life. It's not appealing to anything. You can just look for yourself at the structure of life and see. It's just like how Gary says it. He says that the simplest way is just a need that you did. It's just a need that need not exist. And that's all life is. And it's so easy to see that you're just fulfilling these values, which there's no reason to exist. And I don't need to say it's immoral to fulfill that. I just say it's ridiculous according to my own standards and apparently the standards of many other people. So Lanza thought that Efilists were moralists, and he didn't agree with them totally, but he did subscribe to their antinatalist ideology. Efilism consists of the word life spelled backwards with ism added to it, according to Urban Dictionary. Efilism is a word invented by a YouTube user, Gary Emendham Mosher, to describe the reality that once living things gain sentience, any perceived value is biologically self-serving and therefore a waste. This is Sophie, the perpetrator's self-yeeting muse, who is apparently not alive now, but I'm not sure I believe this story exactly. So he writes it here. I've known for a few years now I wasn't going to allow myself to make it past my 20s. Recently, my best friend Sophie unalived herself. She got the guy she was living with to do it while she was sleeping, her preferred method, and I don't think I really knew how much it was going to affect me. I've never related to someone so much, and I can't imagine I ever would again. We were both anti-sex, misandrous, vegan, antinatalist, negative utilitarians. Both had borderline personality disorder, he puts in quotations. Anyways, we got along quite well, and it was very nice, especially when you feel like you are in an apocalypse and nobody else seems to get anything. If I recall correctly, we had agreed if one of us unalive, the other would probably soon follow. It's just too much of a loss when there's nobody else you really relate to significantly. So this is the lady. Animal lovers don't eat animals. So these are crazy vegans. They have right to die. Like, this is just psychotic. Veg antinatalist. Wow. So now I want to move on to some of the weirder aspects of Sandy Hook. A Sandy Hook mom, clairvoyant son, refused to go to school, which ended up saving his life. It is worth noting, Logan exhibited the same signs of ritual abuse as Kinsey Adams Thompson from the Presidio case. So here we have an article about it. Sandy Hook Elementary school mother Karen Dreyer shares her emotional and uncanny story that saved her 5-year-old son's life. And that's a picture of him. Captain Larry Adam Thompson and Mrs. Michelle Adam Thompson were interviewed at the Child Psychology Clinic at Letterman Hospital. They were aware the interview was in regard to possible cases of CM by a teacher at the Presidio Child Development Center. Mrs. Adams Thompson advised her daughter Kinsey had been attending the school since spring 1986. When she turned 3 in September, she was transferred to Mr. Gary's class. Kinsey attended Mr. Gary's class 4 times in September 1986 and twice in October 1986. She always enjoyed school and liked Mr. Gary very much at first. The second and third time she attended his class, she wet her pants, which was very unusual behavior for her. She became reluctant to go to school and would get fussy, which Mrs. Adams Thompson said was very unusual. Kinsey would tell her mother she did not want to go to school because she did not like it. On January 6, 1987, Mrs. Adams Thompson took Kinsey to school for the first time in several months, and Kinsey said, "I don't want to see Mr. Gary." When Mrs. Adams Thompson asked if Mr. Gary had been mean to her or tried to touch her, she replied negatively. When told she would be having a new teacher, Kinsey agreed to go. She liked the new teacher very much and now enjoys going to school. When questioned about behavioral changes, Mrs. Adams Thompson replied that during the fall of 1986, Kinsey started waking up crying during the night. This was unusual and stopped shortly before Christmas. She always seemed to be more defiant and argumentative with family members. She described Kinsey as outgoing and said she's very comfortable with men and women and that her behavior has not altered. It is worth noting the two who tried to unsuccessfully convince Logan to stay at school was Dawn Hawksprung and Mary Spurlock, the two first targeted in the yeeting. Dawn got down on her knees, saying to Logan, "We love you. This is a wonderful place." Logan screamed back, saying, No, it's not a safe place. I'm scared." Logan's doctor suggested we take him out of school for a couple weeks and homeschool him. Adam Lanza's mentor, Richard Novia, was hired as a PI by Doreen Vincent's mother. Her dad had admitted he had taken photos of his daughter in her underwear and involved friends of his. 5 years later, another girl, Maricela Pino, was taken from Connecticut and brought to Jeffrey Epstein. Adam Lanza had a mentor, Richard J. Novia, who Nancy Lanza insisted never leave Adam's side. As former head of security and Infraguard employee, Infraguard being an FBI cutout, it makes the quote-unquote relationships school yeeters have seem rather curious. And we have here, this is Novia, Adam's mentor, saying, "I told her, Adam's mom, that Adam was making progress and taking him out of school could send him in reverse. He had a support network. Without the school, he'd fall back into isolation. He would lose all of his interactions. Everything would be stripped from him and he would get worse." Nancy wouldn't budge and said, "If you're not going to be there, I'm taking him out. I don't trust anyone else." She had a lot of anger at the school administration. She was unhappy with the entire district, said Novia. Nancy didn't believe Adam would get the attention he needed without me there. This is his private investigator information. And yeah, there's that. So that's in response to this. Extremely memory hold event is how some random 9/11 truther helped bring down the sheriff from the Columbine shooting investigation for his involvement in a human tea ring. This was in 2011, right before social media, or it would be more famous, I think. So that's very interesting. We've got a thread here from Jolene Claybold on X, and I highly recommend you follow him for more information on that event. He's got plenty of threads on it that I think are very interesting. He's always pulled information nobody else has found. So I will link these threads for you guys. There's a lot of very weird things with these events. And so I thought that it was interesting, the connection here. It was clear to me that Guy Bartkus was obviously influenced by Lanza, and I think that the FBI presence in the days leading up to the IVF bombing in 29 Palms is also very curious. The fact that it's never been brought up again, and I think the entire thing reeks of Program to Kill. If you don't know about it, order the book from Dave McGowan. You can find it online. It is very, very interesting, and it also talks about Adam Lanza. So that's it. I'm interested to know what you guys think, and I hope you all have a good day. Ree!
All this stuff really has got me quite upset. I really must say how badly they fucked the internet it's really upsetting, because the internet really is important for people to communicate and whatnot. Get together, form. Obviously, are going to use the internet to try to come together, and they're fucking with that, and that's really upsetting to me. So,
the reason why I have nightmares about school and my parents and all of those things are because they represent what culture is. I'm opposed to all of culture, to the extent that I oppose language itself. And I think that I've explained everything regarding that adequately in my prior videos. So, goodbye, sort of.